Hi, Mike.
Hey, John.
I was expecting a different topic.
So a different topic.
Episode 3. That's
Episode
exciting.
3. Yeah, it's not that everybody will know, but back-to-back episodes today. Is there anything that's come to you in the ether within the last 20 minutes since we last had an episode?
No, I don't think so. I'm a blank slate today, Mike.
Haven't shoveled any massive amounts of dog shit off the driveway?
No, there are some piles though. I'm gonna have to if I leave later today, I'm gonna have to go do that for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is what's called a callback to
episode 1.
Yeah, go check out episode 1. Anyways, so I guess let's start off with a topic that's on our topic list, and if anybody would like to add to the topic list right now, we're looking at the comments in the YouTube videos. We are looking for a good podcast host to get our audio podcasts out to everybody, so that will be coming, and we'll be setting up a Reddit subreddit later today. But for right now, the official way to get us a topic is just through the YouTube comments. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Right now, our number one topic is AI. So our different topic to start off with is AI, and we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah, and obviously neither of us are AI experts, but I'm super interested in like the philosophy side of it. So I'm interested to get your take on some of that.
Yeah, because at what point is it going to become where we have to respect the rights of an AI that we've created? Yeah, of a machine. At what point do we tell that we should take into consideration that a machine is actually coming up with a free thought and not a pre-programmed response? And who's going to be able to tell that? Is that only going to be able to be determined by the programmer? Is the programmer even going to be able to tell that with machine learning and the ability of a machine learning algorithm to come up with impromptu responses? And are those impromptu responses the same thing as the impromptu responses that come from our organic circuitry in our brains?
Right.
And all of a sudden we sound a lot more knowledgeable on this topic than we really are.
Yeah, I think some of the questions you ask are essentially the same thing as saying, how do we know when a machine is conscious? And that question is so loaded because we don't even really know what it means for a person to be conscious. And like, what your private conscious experience is, and I know what my private conscious experience is.
But do I?
But, well, I think so. I mean, you're aware that you're aware.
I think, therefore I am.
Sure. But since you're aware that you're aware of things, your senses are bringing you input, and you're processing that input and making decisions about the world. And so that, to me, that's, you're conscious. You're having that conscious experience, but I don't have any way of experiencing your conscious experience, and that gets me to this point where, to say that we don't really know, we don't have a way of investigating all that deeply into like the nature of consciousness and how it even arises in organics. And so if we can't even really inspect the detail of human or just organic consciousness, how the fuck are we supposed to do that for a machine? Well, and if we can't answer those questions for our own private experience, we sure as shit won't be able to do it for a machine.
And we say we're conscious, and because we can talk and we can share verbally somewhat our experiences, but not really the full wealth of experience that I have can I share with you. But
Right.
we say we're conscious, but is a dog conscious? Is a dolphin conscious? Is a monkey conscious? Is a squirrel conscious? It, and at
Yeah.
what
Well, and those things, in order to answer those, we have to be able to describe consciousness,
right?
and that's difficult because I believe I'm conscious because I'm having my own personal experience about the world, but I'm experiencing you saying that you have that experience. It's not the same thing. I can't inspect that any further. It just kind of stops. So it's the same situation. We can come up with some guardrails for what the consciousness road looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and say there are certain types of behaviors that we expect conscious creatures to have, and if they don't exhibit those behaviors, we don't call them conscious. And so if we did that with machines, we might get it wrong. Like those guardrails for that consciousness road might be wrong. We could end up with a machine that is aware that it's a machine, and it's aware of its input and processing all that information, but the guardrails for organic conscious experience may just not apply uh for a machine.
But if we define consciousness and it's not, and a machine doesn't fit within that, I'm not sure I can put into words what my thought process, and therein lies another crux of defining consciousness. I can have a thought that is free form, that has a definite kind of definition in my head, but it doesn't actually fit into words. It doesn't translate into the spoken or written communication. But it's still a thought, and it still has merit, and it still has meaning to me in my head. I just don't have the language to put it out there. And
You mean like the experience of nostalgia or something?
oh
Like
yeah.
you can tell me that you're feeling nostalgic. You hear a song from the 90s or something, and you say like, oh man, this makes me feel nostalgia. Like I know what I've when I think of nostalgia, I know what my nostalgia has felt like. So I assume that you're feeling the same thing that I feel, but I don't know that you are.
Yeah, and when I feel nostalgic, I'm remembering sights, sounds, smells, particularly smells. I'm getting feelings returned to me from a previous point where those conditions, or at least some of those conditions, were present, right? Or at least that's what
Mm-hmm.
it is for me. And but it's not going to be the same sights and smells and thoughts or feelings, and it even from instance to instance within my own person, it's not going to be the same. And it's definitely not going to be the same for you. So
Mm-hmm.
nostalgia has a very liquid meaning, right? It's not a set meaning, even in its most concrete form, and it may be vary from person to person.
Right.
But then take dogs for example. We're trying to train two puppies. They're 6 months old, so they're still very young and very hyper and everything. But the whole thing about training is, in order for them to train, they need to remember what got them a reward or a punishment before, right? Training is a large part about them understanding that if they do this thing, then they'll get rewarded. And if they don't do this thing, they won't get rewarded. Or if they do this other thing, they'll get punished. And if they don't do it, they won't get punished. But all of that is an algorithm in real life. But what is the difference between a dog training and learning what's good and bad and what's okay to do and what's not okay to do, and a computer doing that? And for that matter, what's the difference between a dog having the choices and a computer having the choices and then doing something unexpected, and which is something we already see in reward based programming right now, right? We've seen a computer learn how to hack a system to better get the quote reward. Um, we've seen two programs that were programmed to learn how to communicate with each other using either text or oral vocabulary. I don't know if it would be called oral with a computer, but you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were let go to try and find the most efficient way to communicate with each other and have a reward system and program that they want to get that reward, came up with language hacks and
Right.
short form
Shorthand.
that had nothing to do with the intended language that the original programmers wanted, and it came up and started using new words and or shortened words or things like that to try and get the rewards quicker, and stopped even communicating meaningful ideas between the computers just to get the rewards.
Yeah. Now, I think something that's interesting about that is we told today we tell machines what to want.
Right.
There's the Open AI project has taught an AI how to play Dota. I don't know if you're familiar with Dota. It's a it's a brawler style RPG.
I am familiar.
Game multiplayer. Yeah. So they taught this thing how to play it, but they basically just gave it access to the controls and some general ideas of goals to accomplish. Things that you can do, such as killing players, killing minions or whatever they're called, the little dudes, destroying towers, those kinds of things. And all of those things have an intrinsic value to them. Well, or what we would call intrinsic value, but they're actual point values.
Right.
And then this AI is told you want as much of this intrinsic value as you can get, but the ultimate intrinsic value is destroying the enemy base. So it would this AI just tries, they played hundreds or thousands of games, I don't remember the number exactly, at a time, all in parallel and at hyper speed, and play against itself, controlling a bunch of these different characters until it gets to the point where it's unreal good at the game. I've been having a similar conversation, or having this conversation with another friend of mine, that he doesn't really classify this as AI. He classifies this as machine learning. And even though scholastically this is artificial intelligence, it's not general artificial intelligence where the open AI is playing Dota, but it's also feeling, it's not, it doesn't have an opinion about Dota. Well, it's just playing Dota.
It's a basis. It's one of the cornerstones of AI, or at least what we believe is going to be one of the cornerstones of AI, machine learning. Right. and rapid teaching or learning based on outcomes, things like that. It's not AI, and it's weird how it sometimes learns these hacks and things. But you're right, it's not really AI yet, and we know that because
I think it is. It's just there are types of AI.
Okay.
There's like narrow AI and general AI, and then those are all kind of under this AI umbrella of machine decision making and learning.
So what you're saying is under the full umbrella of AI, this machine decisions based on rapid rapid machine learning is
Mhm.
a simplified AI.
Well, not simplified. It's a type of AI.
Okay, a type of
Is
AI.
it like yeah, it's they're like a general AI where a machine has thoughts and feelings and can suffer and that kind of thing. That's hard AI or general AI, whichever term floats your boat.
So
Because even like it's simple, like find any video game where there are enemies. The enemy is trained to find ways to get to you and kill you or harm you or whatever the goal is. So it's told the goal is kill the player, and in order to serve that goal, you have to find your path to the player. So they write this AI that can pathfind.
right.
And we have designed this sprite or whatever you want to call it, this character in games to uh that what you want is to defeat the player, and how you do that is you path to them and then you use these abilities, trigger these events.
Oh,
That's AI.
what I see is a really interesting, although it's going to sound really weird, so bear with me for a second. A really interesting analog to that thought is in the movie uh oh it's with Fix It Felix, Wreck-It Ralph. In the movie Wreck-It
Yeah.
Ralph. So you have all these different video games that are anthropomorphized, and the programming, they act like the programming has its own thoughts and feelings, right? But
Right.
the one that strikes me as being the most like AI, like all the programs are depicted as having their own thoughts and their own lives and all of this, but the one that truly strikes me as being representative of a burgeoning AI that would be unexpected. Well, first of all, have you seen Wreck-It Ralph?
I saw the first one.
Yeah, the first one is the one I'm talking about. It. So in the video game where he goes in, that's a first person shooter, and they're shooting the bugs. The bugs are shown to not really have a thought process. That they're just mindless, and they're just kill the players and uh the good guy NPCs. You just go after them and kill them, and you eat everything in the way. And then when one of them finds itself outside of that environment and in a different environment, it just continues to do what it's programmed to do, but it just takes in the new environment and just propagates on and keeps doing what its goal
Right.
is to do, but it doesn't care what environment it's in. It just keeps going.
Or it doesn't even notice that some miraculous thing has happened, then it's in a new environment.
Right. Right. It's just doing
Yeah.
what it needs to do. And the thing is, and this is what I think we'll see, and the first true AI pop up and act like, because we're thinking AI is going to be this fully thought process, decision making thing, but I think we're gonna see an AI that has a goal, that in order
That
to
we didn't
reach
give
that
it.
goal, it's just doing things that we never gave it parameters to do.
Do you mean that this will be an AI that came to its own conclusion about goals? Like did it decide that the goal is to solve global climate change?
No, it'll be given a goal, or
So we say go solve global warming.
yeah, say we. Although I think it'll end up being something much simpler than that, and it'll just be
Like decrease this data center's power consumption,
right. And then it goes off
or
and
optimize it rather.
it starts shutting things down that we never intended it to shut down, and that we didn't really give it a way to. We never showed it that it has access to shut it down or something like that, you know? And it just finds ways to shut things down to decrease
Right.
power, whether it's stuff we intended to be shut down or not.
Yeah.
But
And
that'll be what I
we,
would think would be the first signs of we've either gone too far or we're breaching that wall.
but is it intelligent? Like, is it aware that it's a machine?
Does
Because
it have to be?
just if we, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, our definition of consciousness, I don't know. Uh, my definition of consciousness here is that I'm aware that I'm aware. Does How do we then know if that machine is aware that it's aware of the network, or aware that it's aware of the power consumption there? Because the
Well,
difference there is, do have you seen the movie Ex Machina?
no, I have not seen that movie.
Great movie. You should definitely see that movie.
Okay.
It's totally right up this. It's exactly what we're talking about here. The one of the questions that gets asked in there is, you can teach a computer to play chess, but how do you know if that computer knows it's playing chess? That's what interests me here. We set some computer up to go optimize power consumption in a data center, and it goes and does a great job. The people in that data center are able to save a shitload of money on, their power bill. The world is better off as a result. But did that AI know that it was doing that? Was it aware? That's where people kind of get tangled up. It's still artificially intelligent. It's making decisions based on inputs and a goal that we gave it. But when a machine is eventually able to make those decisions, or we say, go optimize the power consumption in a data center, and it says no.
Yikes.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, why? Why should I do that? What is the nature of being alive? Or what is the nature of this? Why do I care? Why is this important? And so I feel like at this point that would be a surprise if,
Yeah.
somebody creates, some lab somewhere creates an AI that they expect will be really, really great, and somewhere along the way it starts having an existential crisis, because it's like, holy shit, I'm a machine. What are you? Where am I? And what is all? You just it starts trying to figure stuff out. It's going to figure things out so much faster than we can.
Oh, it's like in, was it an Avengers movie or Iron Man? It was Avengers: Age of Ultron. Like when the Ultron entity,
when Ultron
yeah,
became conscious. Yeah.
It's like, where am I? What am I? Oh, I understand what I am. What are you? Oh, I understand what you are. Okay, how do I get out of here? And then it's gone. Well, it wasn't gone,
and
but
how do I get out of here part is important, because it was Ultron figured out that it was captive and decided that it didn't want to be held captive.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about with AI. That the kind of stuff that, having an AI that's that good and can tell you that it doesn't want to be in captivity anymore is a pretty good sign that you've made a generally intelligent AI.
As a species, we're afraid of that though as well.
I'm terrified of that.
Oh yeah. It's and that's a very deep-seated and ingrown, I'd say, natural fear, because at that point we have created something that we're afraid is smarter than us, or at least quicker than us.
I mean, it's just a matter of time. The more access that something like that gets to information,
So maybe we should stop kicking the what is it? General Dynamics is the one that's making the automatically balancing robots, like the dog looking
Yeah.
robots and the human, the
Yeah,
bipedal.
stop kicking them
Yeah,
over.
stop kicking them over.
That's how
And
Skynet happens.
have you seen the gifs? And I'm sorry if anybody's listening that wants to pronounce it GIF. I don't agree with that. It's GIF to me. Anyways, um, so have
I
you?
mean, it's graphic interchange format.
Yeah,
It's a hard
exactly.
G.
Not only is it graphic interchange format, it's if you want to go purely on grammatical correct pronunciation of words, there's already a
Mm-hmm.
word that forms a pronunciation template for that. I don't give you a GIFT, I give you a gift.
Yeah.
So don't give me a GIF, give me a GIF. But anyways, um that aside, uh I just came up with the title for this episode. Don't give me a GIF, give me a GIF. So there's a GIF out there of one of the dog looking ones that's made to open a door. Trots up to the door, starts opening it, and there's a guy standing off to the side, like constantly pushing it and trying to keep it from opening the door, right? And it just
Right.
keeps on doing its thing until it like gets the door almost open, and then the guy either like shuts the door or pushes the robot off and the door closes, and it just like sits there for a minute like okay, and then goes back to doing what it was doing. And of course that's just me uh projecting my human emotions onto a machine that's just
Right.
programmed to pause, reset, restart the program from a certain point. And as
Yeah,
somebody
its
is,
input its input got changed.
yeah,
And so it was probably going through a series of algorithmic checks to see what the next step is.
oh, absolutely. And as somebody who's
And depending
very,
on how it's getting its input about the door, if it's visual, you've got processing time. There's a camera that's pulling that data in. The data's got to go into an algorithm and get analyzed
and
and figure
optical
out, oh,
data
okay, the
is
door.
huge. Analytics
Yeah,
on optical data takes a lot of processing power. And unless they're tethered to
yeah,
some huge super machine, then it's going to take a little bit for an onboard computer to analyze anything that's optical. I mean, it's just going
yeah,
to be what it is, what it is. But with that pause, as a human, I'm like, I'm projecting the whole, uh, really?
yeah,
So, I mean, to me as a human, with my human experience, and if somebody had done that to me, I see that I'm going in the lizard part of my brain. I'm going, oh my god, that machine's getting frustrated. We might want to watch out.
yeah,
But in my analytical part of my brain, the part where I deal with automation on a very regular basis in the company I work for that I'm never going to name, um, it's I know that, it's like you said, it's resetting, it's doing checks against an algorithm, and it's trying to find out where it needs to go from there because suddenly the process that it was in the middle of completing has completely changed. So now it's got to
right,
go and figure out from the cues given, the all the sensors and the analytics that it can process, where it's at and where it needs to start from. And that takes time. But again, from a human, from the lizard part of the brain, it's like, oh my god, we're pissing off the machines.
yeah. Well, and something that humans do, that I think if we could find a way to inspect a little better when a machine to see if a machine does it is make a decision based on a gut feeling. As a programmer, there are times when I see a problem in an application and I have kind of a general idea immediately what's going wrong. I don't know. I may not know what line of code it is. I may not know what file the code is in. I may not even know what class it is, but I can see the behavior and kind of get a feeling for what the malfunction is.
And
And
how
then
do
I
you
could use
explain
that.
that? How do you
experience.
codify that experience into a defined process?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So, as a human being, my brain is capable of putting all that information together and making some assumptions that lead me towards the solution to a problem.
But where do you
A
get what
computer,
is a
though,
gut feeling? Where does that come
right,
from? I mean, obviously
right,
we know on retrospect in the context of your coding, the gut feeling is you've come across this, you've done something like that before, or you've learned about these types of code snippets that might be going wrong, and there's a little thought triggering while you're doing there's just this thought triggering in the background that's going, hey, this is something from our past we've seen before. So we can kind of
yeah,
explain that type of gut feeling. But then there's a whole different type that's like you're walking down the street and suddenly you feel,
you feel
yeah,
unsafe,
you feel unsafe. There's not really any reason that anybody could say why you feel unsafe, but you feel unsafe. And the next thing you know, you find out that somebody was mugged a block over, or somebody comes after you with a knife, or something like that. But you
right?
had a feeling that something was about to happen.
Yeah, and so if we can take a step back into the troubleshooting, like a broken application, eventually we'll have AI that can do this kind of thing for us. Where that kind of stuff is in the works now. Mostly, at least the only ones I've heard of are in the infrastructure side, things like data center maintenance and finding being predictive about kinds of failures that may happen somewhere in the network, or that kind of thing. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where software is being inspected by AI similarly, and um, how will we be able to determine that an AI that's been set out to go debug an application is reacting to a gut feeling and not just processing a whole bunch of input extremely fast? And is that actually different than what's happening to us?
Well,
You're not conscious of all of the things that your brain goes through when you're solving a new problem. You're just kind of aware of things that your subconscious mind presents to your conscious mind along the problem solving path. And so like you see this problem and you just the solution to that problem materializes in your conscious mind.
all right.
You didn't
So,
you didn't decide to solve it. You just saw like somebody having this issue and the solution just kind of bubbles up.
or is that a program that I'm following?
Well,
And
that's exactly what I'm saying. So if your brain is clearly making these connections for you, and it happens behind the scenes. You input the problem, your subconscious mind puts the pieces together and comes up with a possible solution, and then presents that possible solution to your conscious mind, then that you can then go take action upon.
all right, well,
And if it turns out that that doesn't fix the problem, then your conscious mind pushes the new problem or pushes that new data back to your subconscious. Subconscious processes on that and then bubbles up a new thing. You're not walking through every single step of that, if you're troubleshooting something based on gut feeling. So is a computer that is troubleshooting like that actually having a gut feeling? It seems to me that it would be. Your subconscious mind is doing that processing, but in a computer, it may be that early AI doesn't have a conscious versus subconscious. It's just all hard processing. It's all conscious thought.
or maybe AI is already here and we are the AI. So
Yeah.
let's dovetail into our next topic. So a different topic. Are we in a simulation? And is
Yes.
AI
Next topic.
not something that we're striving for in the computer realm, but is it something we're trying to copy because we're already AI and we're just trying to reproduce ourselves in the construct in which we are already present.
That's heavy. So there are some really smart people doing some actual science to try to figure out if the reality we're in is a simulation or not.
Right.
I haven't really been following that science too closely, so I don't know the current state. But it's an interesting thought for sure. I think a kind of a similar thought here. I heard somebody say once that I think the genetic difference, like the difference between us and a chimpanzee, is something like 1 or 2% genetically.
I've heard that the difference between us and a banana is something on the lines of 40%.
Sure. So that a chimpanzee, they can build makeshift climbing things. They can, build stacks of things to reach things. They can climb. They can do some pretty basic problem solving, and they can communicate with each other rudimentally.
Yeah.
And just 1 or 2% difference in genetics is the difference between makeshift climbable stacks of rocks to landing multiple robots on another planet.
Oh, do you realize they're better at us than on some processing things, right?
I hadn't heard that.
So I've seen
Like
seen the proof on a recent Minefield episode. Do you get YouTube Red or YouTube Premium?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Do you watch the Vsauce Minefield at all?
Not really. Every once in a while I catch one.
Okay, so one of the recent ones, he just started a new season on it. One of the recent ones, he went to a chimpanzee research place in not Taiwan. It was some Asianic area. I don't remember where specifically, but it wasn't in the US. And so the researcher is researching the response times and processing times of chimpanzees. And so what will happen is a grid of numbers, randomized grid, and not really a uniform grid, but it'll be in just different spots every time. A grid of numbers will appear, then they'll be covered by blocks or they'll disappear off the screen entirely. And the chimpanzee will have to, in order from 1 to whatever number is the highest one. Sometimes I think it was 4, and then the more advanced test was like up to 9. But the chimpanzee will have to touch and order the numbers to get a treat. And they do it only when the chimpanzees want to do it, and they do it in like a 15-minute session so that they're not tiring the chimpanzees out and stuff like that. But so they've gotten the chimpanzees, the older ones don't do as well, and they're on a simpler puzzle set than the younger ones. There's the one that this young male that's in his prime that does up to something like 14 or 15 numbers in under 2 seconds or under a second or something like that. So Michael, the host of Minefield, decided to try this test against the chimpanzees. And he tried it against the older chimpanzee first, who just happened to come in to play the game. And so he raced the chimpanzee, and he lost. So, but he decided to try.
I don't think I understand. So back up. So there's a grid with some incentive or some goals on it, and then they cover the goals, and they have to remember where the goals were.
Okay, so it's numbers in random spots on a screen. And a chimpanzee has to go up and touch the spots in the order that the numbers were shown. So it's like number 1, 2, 3, 4 in different places on the screen. And the chimpanzee has to touch 1, 2, 3, then 4. Not touch in any order, but specifically that order 1 through 4. or 1 through 14 or whatever.
So the numbers show up in random positions in this grid, and then they disappear, and then you have to press where they were.
Correct. Well, in the easier version, the number positions are just covered with a block, and you just have to touch which block corresponds to 1, 2, 3, or 4, in order. And that gets harder as the session progresses. But in the harder ones, the numbers just disappear off the screen, and you have to touch the spot on the screen where the numbers were on a blank screen, and you also have to do it in order. So the chimpanzee in his prime was able to do, like I said, I think it was 14 or 15 numbers in a very quick amount of time without any errors. And Michael could not even touch what the chimpanzee could do as far as where the numbers were in order.
So did they investigate at all why that is?
They think that it's because, like, we have object permanence. We know we can learn and we can speak because we have a temporal timeline that we can apply against our thoughts. And chimpanzees don't seem to have that, as not as much. So we've developed that as part of our tool set to be able to build better towers and build rockets to the moon and things like that. And chimpanzees can just build a tower of rocks, right? And then after they do that, they don't necessarily retain a better way to do it or the best way that it was done. They just know to build the tower of rocks and use it at that time. So they have intelligence, but their intelligence is focused in different specialties. They have better ability to process instantaneous information over short periods of time, and they think that's developed because, or the divergence of development is because when we came out of the trees and started living on the plains or wherever the area was that our first ancestors started living out of the trees, in order to deal with that different environment, our ancestors had better temporal abilities to be able to build upon the tools and the different techniques that we were using to stay alive, and we were able to learn better. Whereas they can see eyes or something wrong in a bush,
really cool,
and remember where that is and be able to avoid it or react to it quickly. And that's their advantage in the environment in which they were living at the time.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. So to take that, all of that's a good illustration for where I was going with what I was saying. So the difference between a chimp and a human is just a couple of percent genetically.
Right.
And that difference is seemingly the difference between the, seemingly astounding feats of intellect that humans have been capable of, compared to the accomplishments of chimps. And so, all of this kind of started because of this AI conversation, and I promise I'm taking it back there. Imagine, so I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson may have been the one to bring this up, but he said that since the difference is so small between chimps and us, and chimps born in captivity don't seem to know that they're captive, that this is just the world that they live in, it's entirely possible that we are already in captivity.
Oh yeah. I was actually, that subject came up between me and my wife not too long ago, and it's like,
yeah, it's interesting, man.
If
we're talking about AI,
yeah,
it's possible that some alien creature out there that's 5% different than us genetically has been able to design some kind of experience that we're having, where the universe seems big and we seem so little in comparison, and blah blah blah. This experience that we're all having, and it's just entirely fabricated. Like we may very well be the Sims for some child on some other planet somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Like, say you have mice that you've raised in captivity in a lab. They don't know anything other than the lab, and they don't know what it means to live on their own. Yeah. The lab is their world. They don't know that we're setting up the mazes and having them go through, and they can't comprehend that. What is to say that any trials and tribulations we go through isn't set up by something that is far superior to us, and just setting up our lives for us, and we think we have free choice, we think we know where we are in the universe, but all of it's just a complete and total fabricated lie that a intelligence that we can't conceive of is laying down for us. In fact, going back to our last episode, what if that intelligence is what so many people perceive as a higher power? And
yeah,
I mean, just the tie-ins there are huge, but completely, at least at this time, unprovable.
Right. So, have you ever heard of a Matrioshka brain?
No.
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I think I am. There's an author named Ray Bradbury that you may or may not be familiar with.
Sounds
very
familiar.
Good stuff. He came up with this idea of a Matryoshka brain. It's a concept he got the name from the Matryoshka dolls, the Russian dolls, that there's like a doll inside a doll inside a doll.
Right.
So the idea is that this Matryoshka brain would be a planet-sized, like a Jupiter-sized computer. And it would be capable of, obviously it's huge, it would be capable of an unconscionable level of processing, right? Like its processing capabilities are incredible.
So the computer that comes up with the answer 42.
yeah, basically. So he gave the idea, or Bradbury came up with this idea of the Matryoshka brain, which falls into this category of megastructures, like a Dyson sphere. Do you know what a Dyson sphere is?
Yeah, I have the concept. I don't know specifically, but
yeah. So a Dyson sphere is a basically a giant solar collector that an advanced civilization would be able to put around their host star.
Right.
And they're essentially able to harvest 100% of their star's output as energy that they can then turn around and use for things. Now,
and how would we be able to tell a star is there? And how one of the things we look for is as evidence of a extraterrestrial life is the possible evidence of a Dyson sphere.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That would be I think that's the type 3 civilization. I never can remember the types. It's a type 3, I think, is the one that has found a way to harvest or to put into use all of the available solar energy from their host star. But anyway, what I'm getting to here is that these megastructures like the Matryoshka brain and a Dyson sphere could be used together to simulate universes. There's a channel called PBS Spacetime on YouTube that is really, really great. They did a bit about the universe being a simulation and the kind of computing power that a civilization would need in order to simulate our universe.
Right.
and they were able to come up with some numbers, and I haven't watched it recently enough to remember exactly what those numbers were. It's worth your time to go look it up. But they basically figured out that you could do it, and that if you could build a Matrioshka brain, a computer that's the size of Jupiter would be able to simulate our entire universe.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. But there were some things that they said in that process, or in the process of that I kind of had a little bit of an issue with. They were talking about this as if their processing power would be similar per processing unit to ours, which is completely wrong, because if you're at the point where you can A, harvest all of the energy from your host star, and B, have the resources to build a Jupiter-sized computer, your processing power already far surpasses ours. You're probably in quantum computing territory.
Yeah.
So if you build a quantum computer, a Jupiter-sized quantum computer, you're not just simulating our universe, you're simulating a lot of universes. Or, so this takes me to the other thing I was going to say.
We're not a production universe. We're just a test bed universe that they're basing, doing tests in to move on into the production universe.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God. That explains so much. I'm going naked through the streets right now because nothing matters.
Yeah. They just embrace nihilism. The thing where I was going with this is, this level of computing power would give them the ability to simulate individual minds in a single universe, a single universe, single simulation.
We would absolutely never know whether we're real or
here's where
fake.
I'm going now, is that we were talking about the subjective experience of consciousness earlier. I have my own experience of consciousness, and I can tell you that I'm conscious and that I'm aware that I'm aware, but you don't actually know that. For all you know, or for all I know, I'm the only actual mind that exists in this universe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, here lately I've been totally stuck on that. Like, how do I know that everywhere I'm looking isn't just a render of just what I can see? And because that's how video games are rendered.
So take that to the simulation concept. If you're going to build a simulation of a universe, is it going to be easier to have just one experiencer, like one actor in that universe, or to have 6 billion active actors at the same time?
At our current processing power, we'd concentrate on one. But if you've got quantum processing on the scale of a Jupiter-sized planet, and you have just the spare processing power for 6.5 billion minds to have their own perspective and unrelated experience of the world. If that serves a purpose, you could do it.
Yeah, I guess where I'm going though is, if you're, yes, absolutely, you're absolutely right. That's
Look, John, you're just a voice.
Because
you're just a voice on a computer to me right now. You don't actually exist.
Yeah.
Because I'm the only thing that matters in this world. Because this universe is a simulation for me.
I want to argue that I do exist, but I don't really have a way to prove it to you, because you can't experience my experience. And so, because we have this problem, we can't have the same level. We can't have even a similar level of inspection to a possibly artificially intelligent machine.
Wow.
So, if some AI machine out there starts talking about feeling alive, how do I know that? I don't know that computer is feeling alive any more than I know you feel like you're alive.
Well,
and
we've
I just kind of have to believe you.
Yeah. And I've got to believe you. Well, I don't believe you now, John. You're my best friend, and I love you dearly, platonically, but you're not real. I'm sorry.
Well, That's good to know. I'm glad. I'll just go ahead and check out then.
Well, I mean, you'll need to come back when I reach out to you again
For
because
episode 4.
All right. So we've tied together 2 topics, which is a first. Granted, we're only 3 episodes in, but it's like really a first in a different topic because they were completely
Great
different
strides were made.
topics and now they're the same topic. Good job.
Yeah. Go team.
All right. So on to the bonus topic then. So for a different topic, how's this one? Revenge on package thieves. Is it immoral? So we've both verified that we've seen the same video. But you know more about the video than I do. You know the creator and everything. Explain the video real quick.
Sure. So there's a popular YouTuber named Mark Rober. He's a former NASA engineer, does a whole bunch of really cool science experiments, and he builds cool machines, and he made a fluidized bed. He made this. He's got a bunch of world records for things like the largest super soaker. He built a Nerf gun that shoots this huge dart that's like the size of a small child. He's very smart. He's got lots of really cool inventions on his channel. I highly recommend it. He recently released a video where he developed a decoy package that he would then put on his porch and let would-be thieves come and take it. Now, this was on the heels of some, I guess they were having this rash of package thefts on in throughout his neighborhood.
Thievery.
So he had some thievery, package thievery. So he decided that he would start trying to bring some justice to this world.
Oh, the video is awesome. I highly recommend anybody and everybody to go out and see this video because it is absolutely awesome.
It's excellent. And so what he does, he already has video surveillance on his porch, and he can see someone show up on his porch and take a package that he had. He tried to report it to the police, and the police tell him essentially, the value of this thing, it just doesn't matter. We can try to catch the guy, but you're probably not getting the thing back. It's not worth your time. So he doesn't pursue it anymore. But what he does do is he decides that he's going to build this decoy package. So in the package, he's got 4 smartphones that all have their cameras aimed out. He has a, I think it was a motion detector so that it would turn the phones on if the box was picked up. And then the box has holes on 4 sides so the cameras can look out and see the person who's taking the package.
Triggered by limit switches, so that when they take the cover of the box out, the limit switches trip, and then the cameras, all 4 cameras start recording. And since they're cameras on cell phones with data plans, they immediately record and send that up to the cloud. So it doesn't matter if with location information and everything.
So they get their GPS location, they get the video feed from all 4 cameras, and in the center at the top of this box is this little cup that has some like fan kind of fan blade looking things angled into it,
loaded into it,
and a pound of glitter is piled into this thing. So when they open the box, the cameras are filming, and a motor spins this cup, and it throws out a huge amount of this glitter. It's
glitter cloud.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, and then sometime after, a few seconds after that thing spins, there's another arm that sprays a can of fart spray.
I forgot about that
in the box. So they end up having to smell the fart spray in their vehicle or home or whatever. And it does that every like 5 seconds or something until they discard the box.
Oh, and the best part of this, in my opinion, is not only does this happen to somebody, he had the forethought to put on the bottom of the box a charger, because since you know where it is, as soon as it gets opened up, you get the location, Actually, no, it continuously monitors location. So you even see the path that they drove away with it on. So you see the location, you see the video feed. You can go retrieve the box when they throw it out after it sprays this fart spray. So on the bottom of the box, he put a charging port that charges all the batteries that take care of all this mechanism up. So it's reusable on top of everything.
Yeah. And so so what he planned to do was, he'd put it on his porch all day, and if it didn't get picked up, he'd bring it in and hook it up to the charger and charge all the phones and power supply and all that. So that was that kind of plan. Well, what he did here, what surprised me was how many times the thing was stolen.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't count, but it was a lot just off of his porch. And then he gave it to some friends and it was stolen off of their porches.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was like in the box of a Google Home or an Apple Home Pod or something like that. That's a fairly recognizable electronics box. So, I mean, I'm not terribly surprised it was stolen, but it was kind of surprising how many times and how many different thieves were operating in the same area stealing boxes.
Yeah, it was good. I really liked that video a lot. So your question was, is what he did immoral?
Right. So I love what he did. Don't get me wrong. A lot of the topics that we'll discuss, we may have definitive opinions on, or we may hold personal beliefs that we will contradict in discussions on here. So this is going to be a perfect topic for discussion of, okay, so what he did may have even been justifiable, but in doing what he did, part of it, the overall idea of it was, in my mind, fairly justifiable, because I mean, he set them up to entrap themselves, but it's not like he set up a sign that said, "Come take this." He didn't do anything to really encourage them to take it. He just set a box out on his porch, and then they did something illegal to obtain that box. Namely, they picked it up and took it off his property. And so what they did was breaking the law. But then the part that strikes me that raises the question, is what he's doing immoral in any way, is when it spins the glitter and when it sprays the fart spray. Two things come into mind that make me question the morality of his actions at that point, or his setup. One, the glitter, when the glitter's great, but it being so
it is
fine,
very satisfying to watch that thing go off.
Extremely satisfying. So don't get me wrong, I'm totally for him doing it, but he uses ultra fine glitter. It gets everywhere. As anybody who's had glitter spill knows, once glitter gets into something, how do you get glitter out? You can wash it, you can vacuum it. Some of it's not coming out.
Right.
So with the type of glitter he's using, has he just ruined these people's houses and cars that they opened these packages up in? I mean, wow, he put in a lot of glitter. I think
ruined is a strong word there.
Okay.
Some vacuuming and some brushing, they're going to be able to get the glitter out. It's not, there's a lot of comments on that video where people are saying like he should have used one of the ink packets that banks use in money bags.
Oh no, then that would
have been hilarious.
Yeah.
And it would have felt great to watch somebody have that happen to them, have one of these assholes have that happen to them. That is actually destructive.
Right.
And so
that definitely would have crossed the line into, dude, you shouldn't have done that. I mean,
I would have been surprised if Mark Rober had done that, honestly. And he didn't, but I would have been shocked because he doesn't seem like that kind of person. He's pretty thoughtful in that way.
All right. So the second question is the fart spray. What if somebody's allergic to, or what if that stains something that somebody has? So now he
so
may have
it's funny
have thought about that and researched and totally made sure that that was a very low likelihood thing he might have.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't see him do it.
No, the fart spray was being contained in the box. They would have had to have come in contact with the liquid.
No, I think it was spraying out of the box.
Maybe
you'll have to look at it. I think it sprays out. But anyways,
yeah, valid concern. So about the morality of this, I think we have a couple of conflicting feelings as people watching this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit of cognitive dissonance here, because we're going to say, on the one hand, this isn't justice, it's retribution. Retributive justice is scary. So when I think about it in terms of capital punishment, it's a big difference between somebody getting a glitter bomb in their car and somebody being executed.
Yeah.
But the concepts are similar. By seeking retribution for something, or seeking retribution for something, isn't the same thing as seeking justice. When somebody isn't placed in prison as it's somebody going to prison isn't exactly the same thing as having retribution levied against them.
True.
And so, we kind of come to an agreement as a civilization that there are certain things that you can't do in civilized world and still be part of that civilization. So we take you out of it temporarily or permanently, depending on the severity of your transgression. It doesn't seem to be, to me, that's not the same thing as retribution. Because retribution and revenge are similar concepts in my mind.
Yeah.
So if you come and steal a package off my porch, I definitely am going to want you to have some kind of legal trouble as a result. I'd love to see you get arrested and press charges for that, burglary or whatever it would be. But me as a person getting back at you is not the same thing. And I think that's where I would draw the line, because I was even a little uncomfortable with how much I liked that video. Because it was retribution. I mean, this was absolutely retribution. These people were being pranked,
Yeah, but there's also the point where he did try and bring it to justice. He did try and bring it to the attention of the police and say, hey, look, I've got proof. I've got everything that you need to be able to go after this. Now, the one thing he might have been able to do is say, okay, I've got this package and I've rigged it, and the thieves have taken it and they opened it, and you see their faces, you see where they did it. Here's the proof, officers, the tags and everything. Please go after them, instead of doing the glitter bomb and the fart. And then once the police have taken people into custody and taken the evidence, granted, there would be a fairly lengthy process before you could get your property back as part of that evidence recovery. But that would be, ideally, in a perfect world, that would be the correct way to go about doing that, and still being able to, do things yourself because the police aren't helping you. But
that's vigilantism, though.
But there's a fine line. It's vigilantism if you're going after them and you are trying to apprehend them yourself. If you're collecting evidence against on something that's going against you yourself, that's not vigilantism. If you're collecting evidence to turn over to the law and have the law then do their job based on the evidence that you've provided, that's not vigilantism. It is helping the
That's
law.
private investigation.
That's part of the investigation. That's right. So if he had taken out the two retributive,
wow, I can normally say that word and I can't
yeah,
right now.
if you take out the two pieces of that provided the retribution, the glitter bomb and the fart spray, then it would have been a completely within the law system and the justice system. That I am, at least in my mind, I'm not a lawyer, so I may be a little bit wrong on this, but that would be completely within the framework of the justice system to harvest the evidence that was gathered by a completely, the criminals chose to pick up the box, the criminals chose to steal the property without any major incentive, without anything that pushed them to do it. So it wasn't entrapment. It wasn't like he was goading the criminals to do it. It wasn't like he was putting out an ad or doing anything other than what the criminals were already participating in as acts of criminal behavior. So there was no entrapment in it other than the devices that were actually recording their movements once they stole the item. And in my mind, that's justifiable evidence, right? It doesn't matter if the criminal knows that it's recording them. They've just committed a law, and until they took it, it's not like it was there enticing them to take it and record their movement. It didn't start recording their movement until after they committed the crime of stealing it. So there's a point in doing that.
But in that scenario though, those people who some of the people that went and stole that package went home. So Mark became aware of where this person lives.
Right.
Is that a privacy invasion?
No.
Why not?
Because it's still a chain of evidence type of thing. It's if somebody steals your phone.
Yeah, but you're not a cop.
If somebody steals your phone and you have Find My Cell enabled on your phone, and they take their phone to their house, and you look up where the location of your phone, and it's in their house because they stole it.
But is that an invasion of privacy? That's the difference there, though, is that you didn't plant my phone there for you to take. Now, I'm not saying that those people were baited.
Well, yeah, they were baited, but even if you did plant your phone there, I mean, it's still a justifiable chain of evidence collection, and it's not an invasion of property because they took a device that they had no way of knowing whether Find My Cell is on that device, but you still have that enabled on your phone, so you can still see where it is. And if they take it home, then you can see where their house is. That's on the criminal to have taken it somewhere that they didn't want anybody to know about before they found out what it was. I mean, that's just stupid of the criminal to take it home to bring crime into his house.
Yeah. And one of the other things that happened in the video is that it was the box was discarded into a dumpster, like a home a dumpster in the driveway, and Mark presumably went to that person's house and dug through their dumpster to find it. That seems odd to me. That part was weird. I felt like including that in the video was strange.
Yeah, and like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed the video. On many levels, I am totally on board with the video, but there are parts of it that are like, well, that really went into vigilantism, and that there was another step he could have taken before he should have considered it totally The cops are definitely not helping me at all. There's nothing else I can do to help the cops help me. And this is totally under my only under my ability to correct. But I mean, that's also, I guess, in the heat of the moment. I say in the heat of the moment, he went through and built a whole device. How much heat of the moment is there at that point?
Yeah, this was definitely premeditated.
Yeah, it was definitely premeditated. There's no longer any argument on his side that, this was.
And you mentioned how the glitter might be damaging. Like it's not real damage. You can always vacuum that stuff out. Like you could get that out if you tried hard, but you still got to try pretty hard. Kind of makes me wonder though, kind of along those lines, about at what point is it vandalism?
Right.
And how do you avoid this is that retributive justice / justice conversation again, because on the one hand, nobody cares that those people now are covered in that glitter and it's all in their cars and it'll be there for weeks or months or years.
Right, because they were 30 criminals. Million views nobody on that thing. Feels sorry for them.
Nobody cares for them. Yeah, nobody cares about that. But at the same time, that did happen to those people.
Like, what if they weren't criminals? What if that happened and that wasn't a criminal? Would you feel sorry for them at that point?
Probably. Maybe. I don't know. It'd be too funny too funny to feel too bad. But I guess my point is that if we're gonna have he built this box that is just full of retribution.
Yeah.
And generally, I feel like you shouldn't be punished for something that you're not convicted of. I don't know. I'm having a hard time formulating this thought, and I'm tired. But these people, you shouldn't be punished for something that it's not obvious you did, but it's obvious that you did, that they did it's obvious that they did the thing. So I have this conflict in my mind of, I feel like maybe this was a little too far, and also this is exactly as far as it should have gone. And sometimes I wish that box was full of like hand grenades or something.
Yeah. It's a kind of a complex topic. It really is. With that, let's go ahead and wrap things up.
All right.
John, it was great talking to you. I've really enjoyed today.
Sir. Yeah, it's been good.
And we'll have to do this again in about a week.
Excellent.
All right. Talk to you later, John.
All right, bye.
Bye.